Imagine this. You are standing in the middle of a room. It's filled with people who all want something from you. Each person is pulling your energy, demanding your time, and calling on your attention. You can feel your spirit draining, your patience wearing thin, your peace slowly slipping away. And yet, every time you try to say no, you feel the weight of guilt pressing on you. Does that sound familiar? I bet many of us have been there, feeling overwhelmed, overextended, and emotionally exhausted because we didn't set a boundary. Now, picture this. What if you had the courage, the wisdom, and the peace to say no when it was needed? What if you had the strength to protect your time, your energy, and your mental health without guilt? Friends, this is what boundaries can do for you. They can give you control over your life, your well being, and your spiritual health. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out, they are lines that define where you end and others begin. And I am here to tell you setting boundaries is not selfish. In fact, it is an act of profound self respect and, more importantly, an act of obedience to God. Look, I know some of you might be thinking, but isn't it selfish to put myself first? Isn't that the opposite of what I've been taught? To put others above myself. I get it. But we've all been conditioned to think that selflessness is the highest virtue. But let me challenge that notion for a moment. What if the most loving, generous thing you can do for others is to first take care of yourself? What if setting healthy boundaries isn't a betrayal of your relationship, but a way to show up as the best version of yourself for others? Let's talk about self respect for a moment. You know that feeling when someone crosses your boundary and you feel disrespected? Maybe it's someone taking advantage of your time, your space, or your emotions. It feels awful, doesn't it? That's because at the core, we all crave respect. Respect for our values, our time, and our hearts. But here is the kicker. You can't expect others to respect you if you don't respect yourself enough to establish clear boundaries. Setting boundaries is not about being rigid or cold. It's about understanding your worth. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and mental health are precious gifts that deserve to be protected. When you set boundaries, you are saying, I value myself enough to protect my peace and well being. You are drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where I stand. And that's the foundation of a life lived with dignity and self respect. And let me ask you this. Would you let someone walk all over you if you truly respected yourself? Would you allow people to take more than you have to give if you understood your own value? The answer is no. Boundaries are the armor that protect your heart from burnout, manipulation, and exhaustion. Now, let's shift the focus to something deeper, something eternal, our relationship with God. Here is where it gets really powerful. Setting boundaries is also an act of obedience to God. You might be wondering, what does setting boundaries have to do with my spiritual life? Well, I'll tell you. First, let's think about God's design for us. We are not machines meant to endlessly serve others without rest or renewal. No, we are beloved children of a loving Father who created us with limits, physical, emotional, and spiritual limits. He doesn't ask us to push ourselves past those limits. In fact, He calls us to rest. Remember the Sabbath? God Himself rested on the seventh day, not because He was tired, but because He modeled for us the importance of rest and restoration. By setting boundaries, you are honoring the rhythm of work and rest that God designed. But it goes even further. Jesus Himself set boundaries during His time on earth. Think about it. He didn't heal every sick person, He didn't attend every party, and He didn't spend time with every single person who came to Him. He understood His mission, His purpose, and when to say no. He knew that He couldn't be everything to everyone, and neither can we. The world will keep demanding more from you, but God calls you to be wise and discerning in how you spend your time and energy. By setting boundaries, you are honoring the gifts God has given you, your time, your talents, your peace, and using them in alignment with His will for your life. When you say no to something that pulls you away from God's purpose for you, you are saying yes to His higher calling. You are protecting the space where you can hear His voice, where you can grow, where you can serve with a pure heart rather than out of obligation. Here is a powerful truth: boundaries are actually rooted in love, love for yourself, love for others, and love for God. And love is not about giving everything until you have nothing left. Love is about being whole, about having the energy to give more from a place of abundance. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting people. You are saying, I love you enough to protect my time, my energy, and my heart so I can show up for you fully when I do give. It's like the airplane analogy. Put on your own oxygen mask first so you can help others. If you don't protect yourself, you'll find yourself depleted and you won't have the strength to fully love those around you. Now, let's talk about guilt, the sneaky little enemy that often accompanies the decision to set boundaries. You might feel guilty for saying no, for turning down a request, or for taking time for yourself. And guess what? That's normal. But here's the truth: feeling guilty doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something new, something that might feel uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. But you are not a bad person for protecting your peace. You are being wise, not selfish. Guilt fades with practice. The more you set healthy boundaries, the more you'll start to realize how much better your life becomes. You'll feel more energized, more present, more compassionate. And that's when you begin to serve others in the best possible way. So let's wrap up. Let me leave you with this: setting boundaries is not just a practical tool for survival in a busy world. It's a spiritual act, a way of honoring God's design for you. It is an expression of self respect, a declaration that you're worthy of rest, peace, and joy. And it is an act of obedience, a way to live in alignment with God's will, free from burdens that others may try to place on you. When you set boundaries, you honor God, you honor yourself, and you honor those around you. You become a vessel of His love, His peace, and His purpose. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, the next time someone asks for more than you can give, remember, setting a boundary is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It is an act of self respect and a faithful obedience to the God who created you for a life of purpose, peace, and balance. So go ahead, draw the line, say no when you need to, and watch how it transforms your life, your relationships, and your walk with God. Because in doing so, you'll find not only the freedom to live your life fully, but the peace of knowing that you are following God's design for you. And that, my friends, is the most powerful thing you can do. Thank you for watching or listening, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.